Coming to the next topic, this is about the debate on anti-conversion laws. See, we have seen many people converting from religion A to religion B. But there have been certain issues. There have been primarily two groups. One group supporting the liberty and the rights of the people who convert from one religion to the other, say that it is their fundamental right to convert and to profess or practice any religion. On the other hand, we have had sections who oppose this aspect, who say that it leads to instability in the society, and this is not good for any country. So there has been a constant debate regarding this. In order to root out those conversions which are based on fraudulent means, which are based on lure of money, various state governments in India have come up with the Freedom of Religion Bill. More commonly, we have these bills as anti-conversion bills. But again, there is a debate regarding the validity of this particular bill, whether they are legitimate or not. They are legal, but whether they are legitimate or not. We have had Maharashtra, where both the houses have passed the anti-conversion bill, and we have many of the civil society organizations coming and saying that it encroaches upon the liberty of the people, these anti-conversion bills. We have had many states, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, we had Arunachal Pradesh way back in 1978, came up with the anti-conversion bill, Freedom of Religion Bill Act, and ultimately it was recently implemented. For years, the rules were not made. So we have had many of the states coming up with these acts. So we'll discuss what are the pros, what are the cons, and what should be the way forward. As I said, that what are these anti-conversion laws or freedom of religion laws? These are legislative measures. These are the laws which prevent or prohibit religious conversions, aim to prevent forced or induced conversions. Now, please understand, this is very, very important. Let's say a particular person is converting from religion A to religion B. Why this person is converting is for the reason that he has now developed a spiritual awakening towards religion B. He feels that the tenets or the principles in religion B, they are almost very well according to what he feels as right. So that conversion is totally fine. But let's say if someone tells a person that you convert from religion A to religion B, and if you do so, we will give you a job, or we will give you this much amount of money. These are the conversions which these laws try to prevent. So if the conversion is by the way of fraudulent means or lure of money, they are basically prohibited through these laws. But the question is this something which is a post-independent phenomena? The answer is no. There is quite a long legacy as far as these anti-conversion laws are concerned. Just look at this. So these were introduced by the Hindu princely states during the 1930s and 40s to preserve their religious identity from the influence of Christian missionaries. We have had many Christian missionaries in India who tried to basically convert people from Hindu religion to that of the Christianity. Examples include the Raigad State Conversion Act of 36, Patna Freedom of Religion Act of 42, Udaipur State Anti-Conversion Act of 1946. In 1954, after the independence, what we saw was Indian Conversion Regulation and Registration Bill was introduced in the parliament, but it failed. Then we had in 1960 Backward Communities Religious Protection Bill. It was also failed. Then Freedom of Religion Bill, again, however, they all failed due to the parliamentary support, lack of parliamentary support. In 2015, the Law Ministry very categorically said, very clearly said, that we have the matter is purely a state subject. But the question is why? The law and order, police, these are state subjects. And whenever you see these aspects of conversion, they affect the law and order. That's the reason we say that religious conversion is an element which is to be dealt by the states, right? And legislating such a law by the parliament would not be in accordance with the tenets of the constitution. This means anti-conversion laws are completely in the domain of the states. That is what you'll have to understand, can be asked in the prelims. Union Law Ministry in 2015 said, Parliament Freedom of Religion statutes, that whenever you have these the states coming, it is fine, but the parliament cannot come with such type of bill. That is what you'll have to understand. Now, the first aspect is that why do we say that these anti-conversion laws or frameworks, legal frameworks, they violate the rights? Dekhiye bhai, we have the fundamental right to religion, freedom of religion, freedom of conscience, and the right to freely profess, practice, and propagate religion under Article 25. So if we have the fundamental right to propagate, we can also convert. The state should not intervene or infringe upon my fundamental rights. That is what many people say. Then we have Article 19, Subclause 1, Subclause A, freedom of speech and expression. If I am involving myself in religious discourse, if I am telling people that you convert to my religion because it involves this, so that should not be stopped. Again, fundamental right. Then we have right to privacy. In the very famous case of Justice Puttaswamy, what we saw was right to privacy was declared as an integral part of right to life and personal liberty under Article 21. Religion is also a very part and parcel of the private affair of any individual. So if I'm converting, I'm an individual, if I'm converting from religion A to religion B, how can the state intervene in my private affairs? So this is what this particular lobby says, that anti-conversion laws, they violate some of the very important rights. Then we have Article 14. We have many people in society who say that we have Article 14 which talks about right to equality before law and equal protection of laws. But these anti-conversion laws, they are discriminatory. They target certain minorities. So this is violating Article 14. Then we have right to dignity. Again, religion forms a very core of the dignity aspect. So if someone is infringing or forcing me or intervening in my right of converting to the other religion, it is also an infringement of right to dignity. Then we have the alleged suppression of minorities, again covered with that. Because through these anti-conversion laws, what many people of the civil society organizations say, that they target the Muslims or the Christians. That is what their point of view is, right? Now, there was a very important case of S. Pushpabai in which Supreme Court very clearly said that we are not stopping you from converting from one religion to the other. If any person wants to convert, definitely you can convert. But two conditions must be met. The very first condition is that the conversion must be voluntary, out of one's own will, should not be forced. And the conversion should be sincere. Bhai, I have spiritual awakening towards this religion. For years, I was not following the correct principles in my religion. I think that this religion is better for me. It's sincere. But forced conversions are not allowed. What is the need for anti-conversion laws? See, the very first is prevent coercion and fraud. What we have generally seen is most of the people who get converted, they belong to the low socio-economic section of the society. Low strata. Low socio-economic strata. And they are the ones who are in one way or the other. In most of the cases, they are compelled or they are lured that you belong to this tribal group, you convert to Christianity or to other religion. And we have had reports in most of the tribal areas. We are seeing surge in conversion. We would provide you the jobs, we would provide you the money. So this is something in order to basically proscribe, in order to stop these activities, to prevent these coercion and fraud. These laws are really important. Preserve the social harmony. See, if you will see frequent conversions in society, you will also witness the issues affecting the harmonious coexistence of various religions. We follow the Ganga Jamuna Tehzeeb, definitely. But if there are frequent conversions in society, that can affect the social harmony. And that is not good for the society. Then we have protecting the cultural identity. Culture is an element which is very much related to the religious aspect, the religious practices. If there is frequent conversion of people from one religion to the other, it would also affect the cultural identity, the identity of the nation as such. Then we have addressed the national security concerns. We have had many of the intelligence agencies saying that there is the involvement of many non-state actors, many international civil society organizations who are in one way or the other, directly or indirectly, promoting these fraudulent conversions. And we cannot allow that. So therefore, these are very important. Now, what has been the Supreme Court views? We have the very first case of Reverend Stanless versus State of MP in 1977, where the Supreme Court upheld the anti-conversion laws which were made by the state of Madhya Pradesh and Odisha. Simple as that. Then we had the very important case of Hadia versus Asokan KM, in which the Supreme Court said that every person has the right to choose one's own partner. Every person has a right to choose one's partner. And that also includes the right to convert to other religion. Then we have K.S. Puttaswamy, right to privacy was declared as an integral component of right to life and personal liberty. Then we have Lata Singh versus State of Uttar Pradesh. In this case, Supreme Court said that especially in those cases of inter-caste or inter-religious marriages, if we have witnessed domestic violence, The punishment given should be very stringent. If we have witnessed domestic violence, definitely the punishment should be very stringent, especially in these cases of intercaste and interreligious marriages. Then we have the Sarala Mudgal versus Union of India. In this particular case, two things were highlighted by the Supreme Court. The very first thing which the Supreme Court said, if a particular person is converting from religion A to religion B, he cannot forego, he cannot say that I'll not fulfill my legal and moral obligations which I had when I was following religion A. The legal and moral obligations have to be followed. Second thing, what the Supreme Court said, that if you are converting, if a particular person is converting to Islam just so as to follow polygamy, have more wives, that is not allowed. You cannot just convert to Islam to have more wives. Very important case. What should be the way forward? See, there has to be a balance between individual rights and malified conversions. Again, conversions as such, they're not wrong. It's individual liberty, it has to be followed. But it cannot be based on fraudulent means. You have to make sure that if the conversion is taking place, it is out of spiritual awakening. There are no other external interventions which are there. And that is how you can make sure that those valid conversions are protected. But if you have malified conversions, if you see the involvement of other organizations, non-state actors, which are trying to basically affect the stability of that particular country, that should not be allowed. And other thing which you'll have to understand, other way forward is, there is a need for effective consultation and consensus. Very, very important. Consultation and consensus. Before any state comes with any of these anti-conversion bills, there has to be proper consultation, especially with that particular community, the leaders of that particular community, the religious leaders, theologians, so that you have a kind of a more consensus-based approach, right? Let's have a means practice question, a very short question of 10 marks. The subject matter of anti-conversion laws by different states in India is fraught with various debates. Elaborate. Pros, cons, need, and way forward. 10 marks, 150 words. Please do write, because writing is the only way to succeed in the examination. Let's go to the next section.